welcome everyone to Heretics versus Fnatic. And before we get into the game, we have a quick update as members on the Fnatic roster haven't recovered yet to return to the ADC stage, and this match will be played remotely. Both teams will be playing from their respective facilities now. These are two teams that we have at the bottom of the standings right now, and especially for Fnatic, Andrew, I think it's a huge game to score.
100%, especially after Excel got that win, now putting them 2 wins ahead of Fnatic. This one, when you only have, what, 5 games left to play remaining in the season for Fnatic, and when the threshold last split to make top 8 was 3 wins, you are under an extreme amount of pressure to win this game, or honestly, I'll call it right here if they can't beat Heretics.
Yeah, I think there's really that mentality aspect in the game as well, because it's like, you know, this is the closest in the standings to you, and if you fail here, like, it almost feels just lost going into the other matchups, just due to the fact that we couldn't even take the one that was closest to us. Now we have to go up against all the other teams who's got better fundamentals.
They already lost to Excel, and a win against Heretics, it would just be over, I think.
Absolutely, and being 2 wins behind top 8 right now, they would need to get at least like 2 or 3 games next week, and there's no easy matchup when you come on the side of Fnatic here, and might as well start scoring W's as fast as they can. But the issue is that there's not much going right for Fnatic right now. We talked about this in Reddit check, not getting hooked level 1, maybe a hint of something they can start doing better, but I don't have an end to the list of things that are going wrong with Fnatic right now.
Yeah, it's been really sad because I think there's been so many different things misplaying, whether it was in the actual 2 versus 2 around bot lane, you know, then maybe while you're trying to fix things up towards the top side of the map, the bot lane is just repeatedly getting dove over and over. Previously to the game yesterday, it had been Oscarinin that had been heavily focused and losing out in top lane in 1v1s and to jungle ganks. So it seems like there's kind of losing on all parts of the map with not a lot to gain.
Yeah, I really wish I could say it was like some high-level macro that they're misunderstanding and just don't have the grasp on because they're new teammates coming together. But it's not only that, right? Unfortunately, the case just is that it's basic mistakes that are happening, and when basic mistakes are happening, well, you can't even compete against the other teams because their mistakes is not even on this level.
And this is a pretty stark contrast, I think, to how Team Heretics play a lot of their games, right? Because Jankos is so often giving his team an early game advantage. Like, their early games on Team Heretics side actually looks really good a lot of the time, mainly driven through their jungle. And then in the mid to late game, that's where the fights go wrong, or you have the odd calls that just sort of throw the game away. The Heretics games are much more roller coastery than just downhill from the start.
That's the thing, because like at times I don't even trust Heretics when they're ahead because they will still opt in for an engage. I'm like, wait, that was the call? And I think it's also just the fact that the communication is just not there. At least it doesn't look like that from the visual aspect when you're watching the games. But I think we talked about it earlier, right? When you go for the easier to execute composition where, okay, let Jankos drive the early game ahead, let's get some scaling on our carries, that definitely makes it easier. But that also gives leeway for a team like Fnatic to not try and make too many things happen in the early game themselves either, and try and match the scaling aspect instead.
But for me, it's a difficult thing to do, because when you look at the way Heretics won their game yesterday and how Jankos is setting up the whole team for success later on in the game and team fights, how much can you rely on him to always be able to do so?
I think you can honestly always rely on him in the early game specifically. He is just consistently game after game, even going back through winter as well. This guy, even on Heretics, a losing team, was one of the best junglers, I think, in Europe last split. It's been absolutely fantastic to see him perform on a team that's not G2, where he hasn't had the most impact, and this is very much a symptom of the jungle role, is contributing to team fights later on, because all 90% of jungle champions just fall off of a cliff after like 15, 20 minutes, and like your actual contribution to the game is just so minimal compared to the carry roles on the team that's where Heretics start to falter a little bit.
And he's just so evolving because he's actually doing it with different champions, right? It's not just like, okay, let's just put Jankos on Jarvan like we did back in G2 and let him just send in. No, we see it on the Wukong where, okay, let me get sick, let me get Divine Sunder, I'll be a soft carry for a team. Or you want Kindred where I have some early game impact like we saw in playoffs, or group rather, in winter. He can get that going for you. So it's just the fact that you have a player who's such a veteran in the league, but that doesn't stop him from trying to evolve himself and for what the team needs. And I think, props to Jankos, because he's the only reliable guy you really got in that early game.
I want to roll back a bit here and take a step back on things when it comes to Heretics because in winter rather, we talked about the fact that they didn't have an identity per se, and that they got away with murder. They lost game that they shouldn't have lost. They won game that they shouldn't have won either. What is a glimpse of identity that we could see and hope that Heretics is going to build upon?
I mean, it's sort of hard to say because I think to me this is just a team that wants to fight you at basically every neutral objective. Like they don't know how to say no. I think when like someone on the team calls like let's fight this thing, let's do this thing, everyone's just like let's get together and we'll go for it. But I don't think this is a team that's like super like heavy leaning towards one side of the map. I think in the bot lane they had some games last split, or Jackspektra was on like the Draven or the Callista, and it was a bot focused team. But I don't know. I don't really see this team having much of an identity in the laning phase outside of Jankos looking to find a lot of plays. Where I do see it is in the team fights. And I think that's why for both teams, the draft in this game is super important, playing something that is very easy to execute within the team fights. Because I think if you're on the side of Fnatic here, all you're trying to do is track Jankos through the early game, not go horribly far behind, and then try to out team fight your way up against Heretics.
Yeah, and I even think like you were on the right page yesterday in terms of what could look like a good identity to go for, right? Put Ebby on Sion. He's absolutely unkillable in this instance. You're allowed to make mistakes. You have the carries in the back line. I think you can be bot lane focused as well, but I agree with you as well, Ender, because it doesn't necessarily look like, oh, we have an identity where we play bot side, because they're not really doing that either in the early game. It's like, all right, let's get past the first 10 minutes of the game. Now we start playing through reliable carries. So, but I do think like if there is one place I would put the focus to play for, it would be open up bot side, roam around the map with Mersa and Jankos, and they become this like support jungle that move around the pieces of the map.
And now, with one last look on Fnatic before we send it to the game, what do you do in a situation like this? We said that it's fundamentals that are missing for the team right now, because the way they draft, honestly, not that bad. It's just the execution that's missing. So coming to a matchup like Heretics today, I don't want to say do or die, but again, it's getting really difficult for them, and they need to score these Ws, especially against a team like this. Where do you want to keep your eyes on?
Yeah,
here?
like reality is just, you don't have to make it complicated. You're not going up against the best team in the league, and that's just fact. You're going up against two teams that, you know, that are struggling, both of them. You don't have to make anything mind-blowing happen. You just need to make sure that you come in safely and play the game that you've drafted for yourself, and don't make the basic mistakes.
Yeah. And you have to get on the same page. Fnatic have looked disconnected all year, I think, as a five-player unit. Heretics haven't. For better, for worse, they commit to the bit. They go all in as a team, and this team will punish you if you're not all on the same page. Fnatic have to shore that up for this match.
I still want to believe that the game we saw from Fnatic yesterday may have been the best one we've seen from them so far. So, yeah, and hopes here and Copium maybe where we can find it. But without further ado, let's get into Champ Select. Fnatic versus Heretics. Take it away, guys.
DuckTales Quackda.
Thank you so much, Laure and the Analyst Desk. Welcome to Picks and Bans for Heretics versus Fnatic. If you're just joining us, members of Fnatic are still feeling unwell, and that means they're playing from their facilities, as are Heretics. I think I heard Big G Guldborg calling you DuckTales Dagda. Is that a thing? Is that what he said?
I don't know. To be honest, he's been throwing out weird ones all day long. I'm not really sure.
And also, the bias, wearing a Vitality jersey as a professional analyst. Seriously, Big G. Not cool, man.
I was really
cool.
hoping you had that giant bribe from BDS still at the desk.
The gift I got from BDS was just for me. No one else needs to know. Well, let's turn our attention to Picks and Bans. And I think specifically, seeing what Fnatic want to do, I think yesterday they had a stronger showing than they've had maybe all year. Let's be fair. They set the bar pretty low, so it wasn't going to be hard to look better. Right now, in a position they're on red side. And yesterday, Rekkles on that Caitlyn, Advienne on the Lux, it really did not have any impact whatsoever. So do they stick to that? Do they pivot? As far as Jace, Draven, and Annie banned away for now. So Xayah still open, Rakan still open, Ashe still open. Those are kind of the priority picks in my mind.
If I'm Fnatic, I'm not worried about them trying to go for the Caitlyn again. That level 1 just went completely out the window, and Advienne definitely, like it's a major slap on the wrist, but he will now realize that, look, I can't play that aggressive, but it doesn't matter. Heretics kind of respect it as well. They're going to ban that Caitlyn away, and now the priority is still the Ashes, the Gragas's, these kind of things that are still there, but it's going to be the Rakan that's taken off the board.
I mean, you say slap on the wrist, Dagda. I'm a little bit more of a unforgivable mistake. I think a level 1 Lux stepping forward in front of your minion wave, My wife doesn't do that. She sucks at this game. I really hope she's not listening right now. Right now, though, with Rakan and Caitlyn banned away, that Ashe is still open. Some of those other priority picks. Gragas is the big one that comes to mind, too. Jackspektra will instead be locking in the Zeri and a near instantaneous Xayah and Vi. I think when I do look at the stats here, Xayah for Rekkles makes me a little happier. So he's got caught 607, 700 odd professional games. 50 of them have been on Xayah. And he's got a 75% win ratio. And just like that now, picks Jarvan and Lulu locked in. So in comparison to the ban phase, much quicker teams kind of knowing what they wanted to play for.
Yeah, I mean, for Fnatic, it's very simple. You get push against there in the bot lane with the Xayah, and you got the lockdown with the 5. Really, really nice. The Jankos Jarvan, I'm actually surprised, because one of the big things I've noticed with Jankos at the moment is he's stepping into being a more carry-oriented jungler with him being on Heretics, right? We've seen things like the Kindred, he's been big proponent of the Wukong, taking a big step up to be that damage dealer, but now going to take a step back, still have that early presence, but will be less of a damage carry threat in that regard.
What I do like, though, is if he's initiating with those flag and drags and cataclysms, he can then set up the rest of the team, because while Jankos has been the... I might go as far as say the primary threat.
Yeah, he's the star player for me on this team. Yeah.
Now he's got the tools to enable his squad. Also, it's on a champion again. He's 5th most played, 740 games, and out of them, 44 of them on this Jarvan. So now we need to see Jackspektra stepping up on the likes of that Zeri. And we'll see what the solo lane is going to be. It's going to be Nautilus, Xayah, into the Zeri, Lulu. Asol and Gragas banned away. So Humanoid, Oscarinin, Abby, and Ruby. What direction do they go? I mean, Ruby's been playing the control mages predominantly. I wouldn't be surprised to see another Azir ban. Something that has happened a lot.
Yeah, and I mean, Azir did get nerfed coming into this patch, but teams are still perfectly happy to go, right, well, we won't have the same control in the early laning phase, but we get a bigger threat in the later points, and we're happy enough with that. We'll have to see, though, Razork. Sorry, not the Razork. The Victor being banned away as well, so alongside the Gragas. I don't know how I mixed that one up. And then moving forward, we've got to look at what the last ban for Heretics is. I imagine it could be something like a Jax as well, just try and get something off of away from Oscarinin, especially with the Jace already gone. Nair could also be an option.
What will be the option instead? It's going to be the Olaf as opposed to it. I think the Jace ban in phase 1 was huge because Oscarinin had his most successful game on Jace. The laning phase went well. It's also his 3rd most played champion. He's got a 70-odd% win ratio on the pick. So very, very good. We'll need to find something different now. With Jax not being banned, it has now been locked in. So Abby needs to run something into that. Nair is open available. Cassante open available. We'll see what direction he wants to take it.
Yeah, I think it'll be something that's a bit more frontliney anyway, whatever direction he wants to go. Whether it's something like the Sion or a Nair, or even the Renekton can work in this situation because they're relatively short range. The only problem is, of course, that when you try to dive the back line, well, it's Xayah, she's going to be fine. So I wouldn't necessarily go towards the Renekton, and you're just putting a lot of your eggs into the super early game basket with that Renekton pick as well.
And of course, the Azir then is going to give you some of that late game, right? This is the 9th time this year that Azir has been played by Ruby. And for Abby, a number of champions available to him. I'm actually taking a look all year long. This will also be the first time we've seen Jankos on the Jarvan. I held my breath for a moment. That Poppy Hopper got me excited. Would have been some disengage tools against the Jax, against the Vi, but it ends up being swapped away from.
I mean, even the Gale Force for Zeri, or for the Xayah and everything is super nice, but not going to be the case. An immediate lock-in of the Taliyah as well. Humanoid, going to be pretty happy to take that one. Humanoid, definitely someone that we need to see having a bit more of an active role here on this Taliyah. I want to see him getting in. I want to see him roaming towards those side lanes and trying to be a nuisance, especially around the spot lane. Like, this is such a big kill lane if you can get the ball rolling.
And of course, that's Taliyah and the Sion locked in are 2 champions that are not particularly synonymous with Abby and Razork. Abby's got 5 games on Sion, won 4 of them. Humanoid's got 6 games on Taliyah, won 4 respectively. So not exactly traditional picks or like the most common for the players.
It's still team fight though. We want to go in, we want to go ham, go these late game fights and using Jarvan to see if you can get some early footholds in this game for them. On the upside though, Fnatic, decent team fighting, very good split pushing with the Jax and the Taliyah as well, so multiple different avenues of attack to play out the game. It's just going to be a question of can they get this early lead so they can actually set themselves up in that point, especially down around this bottom side.
If you would ask me that question last week, I would have said no, blatantly. Fnatic were not able to get it. You asked me today after seeing yesterday's performance, I have more hope. I have a little bit more faith. I also have been particularly good at cursing almost every team I've said. So coming into this, I expect Heretics to be favored. From what I've seen in their 4 respective games, I think Heretics are the stronger team. So it's up to Fnatic to prove me wrong and pick up the first win of spring. It's Heretics versus Fnatic. welcome to Summoner's Rift with Quickshot and Dagda. This will be our last game of the day. We'll be back tomorrow for games 1, 2, and 3. But what we've seen already is 2 crackers, 2 bangers. As Flowers would say, 2 barn burners. I think that's something he says. Medic tried to steal it too. For Fnatic, this is a moment to try to claw themselves back into some form of contention. Before anything starts at all, it is so important to look at the standings. Both of these teams sitting at 9th and 10th. I think with the fact that XL just took down Mad Lions, if Fnatic drop this game, they are going to be in so much trouble because of the fact that you really want to look at those 3, 4 wins to try and make it to group stage.
It's going to be a tough one. Fnatic have not been looking confident. They have not really looked like they've had control over the games, and especially yesterday was kind of the first inkling we got to see, but has not really been there particularly often that we get to see them have. It's all right mid-game, but the unfortunate problem that their early laning phase and bot lane went so atrociously.
Yeah, it really, really did. Kudos to the fans here in Berlin, currently looking at 10 teddy bears on the stage, as the players are obviously playing from their facilities. Members on the Fnatic roster not feeling well.
It's the Adam strat. We're going to get the dive on bot lane again.
Ooh. Do they actually follow it up after that? So Oscarinin left alone in the top lane on the Jax. If we're going for the Adam strat, break it down for me. Explain it to me because I'm not the smartest.
So basically the idea here is that you're going to be able to clear out with Evie fairly easily. You then try and look for the dive with Mersa and Jackspektra also having the push in that bot lane because the range advantage. Now Evie will stay behind in the early levels but can then TP up to catch this big wave. Looks like at the moment though, they're actually just going to look for the pick on towards Razork. Great ward there, realizing, hang on a second, I haven't seen anyone in that top side, so he moves from red immediately to bot, but everything's already taken.
I mean, if you're conceding the lane that heavily, Oscarinin is going to be so thankful for a player that has struggled to make his debut at the LEC, has been bullied as well, focused by multiple members, multiple teams throughout the course of the game. He's got a wave and a half, 2 waves, uncontested. But that also means that for Ebby, very clear signal. They want to make sure that front line, he just throws down the ult, tries to buy some time for Ruby and Jackspektra to then clean up. That's the goal.
Yeah, just coming back to this split map though, the biggest problem for Razork was because he leaned into this bottom side, he's now not in a position to try and go for the counter punch on the opposite side, try and get some of that jungle for himself, use the push Oscarinin has on that top side. So now Jankos will get to re-push into bot side. He has push in mid with Ruby, so Ruby can help him match any play Razork tries to make in the jungle, and Razork's just massively behind.
Okay, let's zoom out and look at the lanes really quickly. Advantage for Oscarinin because of that split map. Dead even in the mid lane, dead even in the bottom lane. Both duos heading towards level 2. We're once again seeing a Jax playing aggressively into the Sion. We just saw that in the previous game, if memory serves correctly. It ended up working out in favor for the Sion in the end. It was the team fights who was the engaged tools. Advienne and Rekkles this time around, now stepping forward, minion wave just being thinned out, and while that's happening, Razork is up in the top lane. Feathers fly, Mersa's rooted, the polymorph comes up and Mersa may go down. First blood to Fnatic. There's another fight in the river. Jankos forced to flash for his life. Level 4 for Yurubi, sends the Sand Soldiers forward. Slide, the glide, there's no divide, he's only level 4. Fnatic get a second before it's traded back.
He's no mana.
Now Ruby's got no more mana. Run out of space, run out of soldiers, but here comes Ebby. Decimating Smash comes out, and it's Fnatic that have got 3 kills. The shove backwards, Ebby's got no flash, and he's taken down 4 kills to Fnatic.
Oscarinin has 1,000 gold lead at the 4-minute mark. Fnatic have come alive against Heretics, and they really want to pick up that win.
How exactly did this happen? Dagda, take a look through this one. I'm going to quickly look up Oscarinin's Jack stats.
Well, level 2 for Razork. Jankos thinks he can make the play, but Oscarinin doing a really good job of working with Razork here. Ruby does have first move, but immediately he's out of mana. Also not in the best position to really be a difference maker here. So when the rest of Fnatic show up, everyone on Heretics is overextended, and now Humanoid and Oscarinin can finish off everyone.
I mean, this is Oscarinin's 4th ever Jax game that I can see. So around 200 odd games, played 3 before, only won 1 of them. 3-0, 1,000 gold lead. He was the big recipient of the top lane skirmishes. But importantly for me, the 2v2 goes the way of Fnatic, Rekkles Azir winning that. And then in the 3v3 top, Fnatic win everything. They get all 3 of those kills. Yes, they concede the 1 death. But for a Jax to have the gigantic CS lead and the kill advantage, that is huge for Fnatic.
Especially when we're talking about the opportunities that this Fnatic composition has. Yes, you can play for team fight, that's great. But you can also play very heavily for split push. And Oscarinin so accelerated, 2 levels up, and the fact that he's going to be very quickly going towards this Divine Sunder, they're getting to a point where Heretics just can't fight inside lanes against Oscarinin.
Well, Oscarinin in a great position. The rest of Fnatic are now pushed out and trying to respond here. No TP for Humanoid. Fnatic tried to start the Dragon, but I think it was a bit cheeky. Neither of the waves really in their control. No mid laner to support either. So Razork started that one off and was immediately pushed back. Level 4 for now. And maybe just shadowing this lane because Jankos is not in position, not looking to set up a gank. Instead, both junglers about to go head-to-head in the middle lane.
Yeah, Humanoid wanted to reset, get push in mid now. He needs to clear that out. Jankos trying to interrupt, but spot on the ward. Will EQ over the wall, but Razork's in position.
Well, gonna charge up that Q, knocks back Jankos, seismic shove to the 5th, kill secured. And Fnatic are dumpstering Heretics in the early game. They're winning the laning phase, they're roaming effectively, and Razork on this buy is finding opportunities for Oscarinin and Humanoid to back him up.
Fnatic are playing fantastically now with the Dragon, with the control that they have, the 2 kills going, or 2 assists, sorry, going over towards Humanoid. He'll be in a position now where he can get push easier, level 6 hit, start to roam down towards boss, and Mersa still doesn't have his flash, so there's a small timing window where he can still abuse the fact this Lulu's vulnerable.
All right, while the Dragon is being started off, I think I've got a brief moment. I just want to set the stakes here of just how bad this year has been for Fnatic. In terms of the regular season games, they have lost 8 regular season games in a row. That does include winter and spring. If you look at the table on your screen right now, the longest losing streaks for Fnatic during the regular season prior to this was 5 games in 22. 4, 4, 2, 3. This is the longest time that we've seen Fnatic strong. It was the first time we've seen them not advance past the regular season to the best of the bracket stage. And right now they're looking to end this loss streak. Stop the 8-game slide. Stop the 50 days since Fnatic have been in a win. And look, I'm 7 minutes in. It's a 2,000 gold lead, so the game is by no means over. I'm just very excited to see Fnatic in this position.
Especially when you look towards the upcoming games that Fnatic have as well. It's not like it gets any easier. You still have Koi, Astralis, G2, Mad Lions all still to play. So this for Fnatic is a very much needed win because you're going up some of the best the LEC has to offer. So the fact we're getting them not only coming out swinging against Heretics, but looking this good fills me with that hope that they can try and bring it back.
Okay, so 2 of us, I think we both just stepped into our own trap. We're excited to see a strong early game. We're excited to see a Jax that's 3-0, and if it was solo queue, I'd be spamming FF15 immediately, personally. However, we've not seen Fnatic with a lead. We've not seen Fnatic in a controlling position, so
see Fnatic
they
get
still
an
have
ace.
to, they have to deliver. They have to deliver, okay? So let's just reset this and dial it back. It is a 1,700 gold lead for Oscarinin in the top lane, and pretty much dead even across every other lane. In actual fact, Ruby is out farming Humanoid, I think because of those skirmishes and the time spent away. Now Jankos looking to get involved. The only kill Heretics have secured is with Jankos. He's got himself that Cataclysm available. He can lock in Oscarinin, who has no flash. Oscarin's got himself the kill already, and at least replies with 1 back. So a 1-for-1 trade maybe pushes that wave forward. Right now, going to set themselves up. Cease, desist, Mersa, you cannot flash from that one, buddy. But he's put enough distance that Humanoid and Advienne cannot get in range. Mersa's waddling his way forward. The Weaver's wall is thrown off and your route is cut off. Another kill to Fnatic, and they extend that lead even further.
And immediately Jackspektra gets the hell out of the bot lane, but it may not be quick enough.
It may not. The depth charge comes out as well. Denton blows into that dredge line. Fnatic are not done yet. 8 kills, a plate on the bottom tower. And this is just acceleration here for the members of Fnatic.
Divine Sunder already at 9 minutes for Oscarinin in the top side. Now you're getting the kills also going the way of Razork. You're getting plates on bot side. This is insane. Humanoid spot at Ruby.
Well, Ruby gets caught by the seismic shove, stepped on top of the unraveled earth, uses the Emperor's Divide, but the threaded volleys are coming out. Sand Soldier to 200, 150. Humanoid's low 80, down to 7! 7 hit points, and Advienne wants to turn around. Slap him with the anchor, Advienne, and Razork picks up another.
Calculated. Humanoid gets down on 7 HP just as the rest of the cavalry show up.
Advienne, Oscarinin, and I came in today ready to poop on your performances this spring. 4-1-0, 2-0-1. You are showing up and shutting up the Heretics members, but at what cost, as Razork will overextend? Fnatic feeling themselves a little too much. They get caught out and they concede their 3rd death of the game. Still 9-3. It's still a 3,000 gold lead. They've got to be a little careful of that. Don't feed kills to Ruby, to Jackspektra. Rekkles, level 7 versus level 7, is going to look to at least threaten Advienne, start a cheeky recall.
And I do agree, Fnatic need to cool the Jets a little bit. They should have been looking towards things like Rift Herald and actually trying to find these big plays. But Humanoid here does completely get caught out. Great Emperor's Divide from Ruby. Unfortunately, Jankos just that smidge too far away and just barely able to get away from this. And then Advienne shows up. He has Vi in the back pocket as well. This duo of Razork and Advienne have been so crucial to this game so far.
Man, in the previous game, XL showed us what they could do. For the first 11 minutes of this one, Fnatic are showing us what they can do. Let's be very fair about this. Both Heretics and Mad Lions have also had a shaky spring. So for Fnatic, this is a great start. They've got themselves a powerful advantage. Gale Force already picked up by Rekkles. The members of Heretics are inside the Rift Herald pit. They will secure this objective here uncontested and start to back away. But every time Razork starts charging up that Vault Breaker, I'm waiting to see the engage. Ruby use those shifting, conquering sands, but not throw down the Emperor's Divide, and instead they've got the Herald. So this will be a way to claw back that 2,500 gold deficit they find themselves in.
Crucially, try and get a trade for the Dragon. They're just not in a position to really fight for it. Gale Force already completed for Rekkles. Rekkles now is on the top side, and I think for Fnatic, they're trying to essentially read this, go, Heretics, chances are not going to look for that bot side play, try and cross-map it for top, and they're matching a lot of that pressure already.
All right, now, both teams kind of looking for opportunities. They're trying to find positional mistakes. They're trying to force an error from their opponents. Team Heretics went for the Herald. Fnatic didn't really respond. They tried to make a play top, didn't find an opening. And now both of the lanes are starting to, or all of the lanes are starting to reset. In the one win the Heretics have to their name, I will get to that in a second. They had a 700 gold lead at 14 minutes, but the game was very bloody. Heretics are a team that are happy to get scrappy, get caught in the dirt, and they may need to do it this time because, look, they're grouping top. Oscarinin's grouping up with Humanoid in the bottom lane. Razork can come join the fray. Earth was unraveled as Shelly's dropped in the top lane. Thwack, thwack, thwack. Oscarinin's Jax and Jankos forced to use that flag and drag, and away! Plate gank secured, but at the cost of the Dragon. So 2 now in Fnatic's back pocket. And I think they're going for a dive, Dagda.
Yeah, Razork on the way, Humanoid here as well. Stun is perfect. Evie forced to flash early.
He survives for now. Vault Breaker being charged up, knocked backwards. Oscarinin, and a little bit of threat. While that's going on, potential fights in the top lane. It's Fnatic. They get themselves a kill down bottom. Run, Oscar, and he manages to get away from the waddling Sion. Ruby is allowed some time to chip away at least 2 of those plates in the middle lane, and literally every single time we try to set up to talk about things, a fight breaks out. Feathers and Flash available. Flag, drag, Cataclysm is dropped. Feather Storm is out. Blade Core available and not going to find a target to root. The tower's under threat. Ruby's making his way top as well.
They really want to try and get some answer back, but it might just be the tower in response to Oscarinin in that bot side. So at least Heretics get first tower, but it will be answered immediately with more value for Fnatic.
And now this is where the two of us need to just check our biases for those first 8 minutes. Yes, Fnatic ran away with the first 8 minutes of the game, and they generated that 2,000 or 3,000 gold lead. But now it has stayed at that point. The fact that both Jackspektra and Ruby have been able to farm up to stay relevant with their lane opponents means the Heretics are not completely out of this game, but they cannot afford to lose control of Jax. He's 3,000 gold up. I mean, he's more than the entire team gold advantage for Fnatic.
He's nearly completed his second item just as Jackspektra has finished his first. He is absolutely huge at the moment, and that's where a lot of the problems and the pain points are going to be for Heretics. As Oscarinin is able to continuously push against Ebby, essentially ignore the damage as well once he gets to a strong enough point, there's no way for them to control his sides with Humanoid also having push on the opposite end. So at the moment, they're going to move Rekkles into mid. He should be able to get good control over this mid lane. And then it's a case of Advienne trying to lean with Razork to bot, to Humanoid, to set up more of these dive plays.
And now, Rekkles, I'm looking at you to learn from what Patrick just did. Both Patrick and Rekkles are 2 AD carries that, frankly, are better than what we've seen from them this spring. Patrick in the previous game on that Xayah, I mean, he just flew. Positioning was fantastic. Play calls were fantastic. And with the advantage has been built up for the team. Yes, Rekkles is behind in gold because the kill has been secured by Jackspektra. In comparison to so many other games he's on a champion we know he's comfortable on. He's got a team that can buy the time and the space thanks to the lead that's been generated. So Rekkles also needs to put the damage down, because what we have seen this spring, it's not my fault, Cataclysm comes out, forced to flash and goes. Seriously, it is not my freaking fault. But I do want to highlight again that I think for Rekkles, it is time to put up or shut up. You know, you really need to deliver because of how influential bot laners have been in the current meta.
I agree. And I think the biggest one at the moment is, again, the fact that Rekkles just barely getting caught there now gives Heretics this push in mid. So it is these little mistakes that are starting to come back a bit. But if you look topside, Humanoid has push. Jax as well for Oscarinin is stealing away camps on this bottom side. So still, even though you're having a lot of Heretics members group up and look for stuff, Fnatic are still managing to get these advantages.
Let's talk a little bit about the compositions. We're heading towards the 2-item state. Second tower is going to fall in favor of Fnatic. I think it's fair to say some similarities to our previous game. In that, Heretics team composition, slightly smaller damage profile. You're really going to lean on the Zeri, the Azir. But it's slightly simpler to execute comp. Jarvan, Sion, and Lulu, they're going to be looking at frontlining and going forward, and you want Zeri and Azir to do things. For Fnatic, they can play side lane. They've got pick power with the Vi, the Taliyah, but not that like really beefy frontline tank. So I think burden of execution higher for Fnatic.
I think it's easier to target select on Fnatic though, and also to play around a lot of the engage tools Heretics have. Because if you look at Ruby, potentially with the slide and glide, you've already got the Unraveled Earth there for Humanoid. Same when Jankos looks for these engages. So a lot of ways to try and combat some of the setup for Heretics, and then still look for those sideline plays. So I think it very much depends on, with Humanoid getting these big leads, if Rekkles can still be that carry, and then Oscarinin, if he ever gets access to backline, it's done for.
I mean, what I really like about what you just mentioned, point and click CC, right? So Vi and Nautilus, they ideally just want to be close enough to a Zeri to be like, bro, you don't fight. And then you try and let, you know, Razork, Oscarinin, and Rekkles try to clean it up. So positioning important. 2 dragons have been picked up here by Fnatic. It's 30 seconds to the next Drake. Pretty shallow vision for both respective teams. And it looks to me at least like Heretics are the first to the punch here, trying to make control of the mid lane, but maybe Fnatic can get the river first. I'm
looking at Fnatic to see if they're waiting for members of Heretics to catch the wave that's been pushed on bot by Oscarinin, and then they move into position. But we'll spot out the fact that Evie hasn't committed to that bot side, so it is still the 5v5.
All right, let's take a look. Humanoid's got that Weaver's Wall available to him, can at least cut off some sort of entrance. We're just setting up, straight up, 5v5, brawl, throw it down in the river. That is what is happening right now. Humanoid's waiting for that line. Empress Divide is available to Ruby. Fnatic inside the pit. In actual fact, the wall is used to prevent the retreat. The dredge line finds no target. Dragging down to 4,000. Conquering, shifting, soldiers move forward. Cataclysm comes out to Razork. Everything thrown in the river to Jankos. That gets the dragon. The cease, the desist. Picks up the kill onto Jankos, and as Oscarinin runs for his life, he's dropped. Evie flashes to buy some time. 3 members of Heretics are running away for now. And Evie in zombie form chasing. 1, 2 members down. Humanoid hops over, threading that volley forward. The seismic shove misses his target, and Rekkles cannot get into range. A 2 for 3 in favor of Fnatic, but the dragon goes to Heretics.
The dragon goes to Heretics, and it's a bit of a messy fight, but Fnatic managed to pull it out of the bag as well. Now with mid push here, they should be able to get this tower as well. I don't know if you want to stay here, boys.
Well, we're going to find out. Jackspektra, no sums. Mersa, no sums. Rekkles used everything as well, to be fair. So Fnatic, they managed to win the team fight. It ended up being a fight on multiple angles. That Weaver's Wall used to lock them in, but it didn't really have the influence I hope they were hoping for.
You talked about it already, though. The lack of a front line here kind of comes back to bite them, because Oscarinin and Razork are stuck in the Cataclysm, which means that then the rest of the team turns on towards Rekkles. He's forced to ult completely away from the fight because Evie keeps him in check. So Heretics, managing to put a bit of space between the front and the back line of Fnatic, are able to turn some of these kills around. But unfortunately then Ruby stuck in the pit. The rest of Fnatic are able to come back after Rekkles has dealt with Evie, and it ends up being a fight that Fnatic can come back from.
Well, Fnatic right now in a position, they are still in control. It's a 3,000 gold lead. They've got 2 dragons to 1. That Dragon's Soul, the Ocean Soul, has been slowed down. I think that is going to be very crucial. I kind of feel like Ocean Soul may be more impactful for Heretics. They want more time. They want Zeri and Azir to buy it out. Obviously not going to deny the power to the influence it can have for Fnatic too.
Yeah, I think the biggest one, though, is that, like, Fnatic should never really let it get to that point.
Right.
Like, you have control, you have the Rift Herald now that's going to go down, but the way that they were setting up waves before that dragon was not great. They had no pressure elsewhere on the map. and it meant that Heretics were able to go for that big 5v5, get themselves established in River. So for Fnatic, it's not a case of, okay, we just win. You actually have to play smart about the way you're setting up the waves on the map.
I mean, both teams kind of just leaned into the 5v5, right? They literally saw the timer, they ran into the river, and they just brawled it out. ARAM style. Oscarinin, no flash. Not going to be jumped on by Jankos. But for Fnatic, they picked themselves up a couple of towers. It is at least bounced back as Ebby takes down that bottom tower himself. So that gold difference is still there. Rekkles has just picked up those Navori quick blades, so 2 items secured. Now Ebby is under some threat. Oscarinin and Razork stepping the way forward. 2-level advantage for the opposing jungler. And will be forced to use it Unstoppable Onslaught. Not the end of the world. Relatively low cooldown and kind of anticipated. But it is the side lane pressure that we do want to see, because I think... I didn't see if Oscar had his TP available before the Dragon, but didn't try to buy time, didn't try to bait Heretics into the pit, like use the comp that Fnatic put together to its advantage.
Especially the fact you can just look to trade a Dragon. You don't have to worry about going for a team fight. I know one Ocean Dragon going across, say if you got the tier 2 in top, if you'd actually manage to get that mid tower push down and then threaten a huge man, that becomes far more valuable, because then it gives long lanes for Humanoid to play around. Suddenly your mid lane is significantly closer to your side lane, so you've got quicker rotations between both sides, and then you can actually keep Heretics at bay from Dragon 4, 5, 6, and that's where I think you should be playing for as Fnatic. They may be starting to lose a little bit of the wheels a bit, where you actually need to make sure Heretics aren't reaching super late game.
But the thing is, even if Heretics do get to super late game, we don't have the utmost or the highest confidence in their either movement around the map, their team fighting. What we have seen is a bit of a shaky mid to late game. I can remember the inhibitor push where, I think if I recall correctly, Ebby was pushing the Nexus, the rest of the squad trying to defend the tower. They ultimately lost both objectives and then lost the game. So for Fnatic, they've got the gold lead. They're facing a team composition that wants to go late, that wants to team fight late, and it's against a team that has not demonstrated mastery of that portion of the game.
I will use your own words against you, though, and it does feel a little bit of a simpler composition to operate on. Like, Jankos basically puts the bullseye down and goes, here, hit that guy.
Keep
this
it
one right
simple,
here.
Sion.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll go with that one, right?
As long as you just hit that one guy, you're going to be fine. And Ebby can tank for days.
Yeah,
He's fine.
He's the Sion, looking to keep it simple. Forced to flash for his life. Ruby has a flanking opportunity available to him, instead backs away. Fnatic are hunting. Okay, so teleports are available for both Humanoid and Oscar, but the members of Fnatic have just grouped up as 5. So they're just going to look to force a fight. They've got a 5v4 for a few seconds. Ruby will be late to this one, but it's Team Heretics. They're waiting. They've bought enough time. Oscar and Rekkles on the front line. Ruby has dropped the sun disc down. I'm just waiting for someone to pull the trigger.
Ruby, can he get the big slide and glide in? See if he can find it, but has to be so careful. Humanoid is positioned away from a lot of those engage tools right now. He needs to pull himself further in so he can actually be set up with the Unraveled Earth. Heretics essentially trying to threaten a Baron if Fnatic go towards this Dragon.
Nah, man, we're just throwing it all down. It's ARAM style. Side lanes don't matter. 5v5. Who's got the better team fight? The Baron has been started here as a bait. Ebby's waiting on the side. Unstoppable Onslaught is available to him. He can run into multiple members of Fnatic. Decimating smash charge, won't find a target. Oscar gets the stun, seismic shove out. Razork will not find another, and still dancing on the threat ranges. Empress Divide to buy time. Oscarinin uses the stopwatch and Rekkles remains untouched. Oscar flashes off to safety as Rekkles is throwing out the feathers. Still got the ult available to him. Fnatic are destroying Heretics. 3 quick kills, and they can peel back for the Baron. They absolutely cleared that fight out.
It was a nice attempt from Ebby to get that flank, but Fnatic, as soon as they spotted that there was no sign in the pit, they started checking every brush along the way so they didn't get caught out, and Ebby ends up giving his life. Like, watch at the start of this here. Advienne throws a hook into the bush. It's like, no sign in there. Oscarinin then goes, but he's more than likely in this one, so starts to back away from the banana brush, and that's where Fnatic then able to kite back, turn it around. Oscarinin did a really good job here of buying time, using the leap strike, playing around counter strike, then having the stopwatch, and buys that opportunity for Fnatic to get the damage down.
I mean, that Empress Divide really had limited to no impact. Ruby was forced out of the fight. Rekkles went untouched and fired those feathers. He didn't even use the Feather Storm as far as I recall. So that just extends that gold lead further. 5,000 up. We've got the Red Bull Baron power play now for Fnatic. We've got a 3rd Dragon that will be uncontested. And for Fnatic at 24.5 minutes, they are grouping up. They are daring Heretics to fight them. It's simply not working. And I'll give some credit there to Ruby. I didn't expect him to do even 3,000 damage, but did not have the impact necessary to win that fight, and that's why Fnatic are now sieging. I think we're going to have another fight. I feel like Heretics are just going to throw down. Cataclysm has just become available. Unstoppable Onslaught is up too. Ruby's making his way from the middle lane. It's actually going to be a retreating Onslaught. So now Humanoid, does he decide to use the Weaver's Wall? Cut off the retreat path. He's done this before. I think he might want to do it again. And there it is. It's thrown down, Dagda.
But catches Oscarinin in that as well. So Oscarinin now in a little bit of trouble, forced to hop away. Should get the tower on bot side though.
Well, tower will drop. Razork steps forward. It is a little bit of an intriguing set of abilities here. Both teams, individuals looking to create opportunities. No one really being able to do so. Oh, the Dragon Strike. Just a little short, but the recall finishes. Cataclysm locks in multiple members. Rekkles forced to flash away. Blade Call is backwards. Nobody's died just yet. Advienne, Dredge lines forward. That will cost him his life. Remember, as soon as that recall finishes, all of a sudden, Heretics pull the trigger. Oscarinin is applying pressure in the top lane. Fnatic trying to buy as much time as they can. Decimating smash out. Ruby flashes forward. The Divide sends Fnatic the safety of Rekkles is shut down. Jackspektra gets the kill, and Humanoid will be the next target. Threaded Volley gets himself another. While that's going on, Oscarinin is applying pressure in the top lane.
Should be able to get the top tier too, but won't get much more. Jankos in a position to make sure that he can try and catch this, but really nice job from Heretics. As soon as they realize Oscarinin is on the reset, that's when they turn and pounce.
Well, they managed to at least get themselves a couple of kills, but I think Fnatic is still overall in a better position. That was the wall. Dragon Strike didn't land, and no hesitation at all. Instant 3-man Cataclysm.
A great job from Jankos. Immediately jumps onto Rekkles. Rekkles is then forced to flash and ghost away from it. Jankos just about manages to escape, but here, Jackspektra's in a fantastic spot. He knows he can deal the damage. He's got the speed up. He's going to have that front line to make sure he's fine. Great ultimate here from Ruby into a great flash from Jackspektra. So over the wall, immediately over. Jackspektra now flashes the Rekkles Blade Caller so he doesn't go down, and they're able to claw something finally back here.
Such a good position there for Fnatic at least. They still, 5 towers to 3. They've still got the lead. 2.5 minutes to go until the Soul. But I think you can't deny the fact or disregard the fact that these team fights are a little scary. If Ruby and Jackspektra are given the time, given the space, they can clear out the team fight. So for Fnatic, can't afford to give up more, but they're still in a great position. They still have very clear control of this game.
Especially as we're starting to crest into 3-item territory now. You got 3 onto Jackspektra. Ruby nearly finished his Zayahs. This is where it actually does become a little bit more dangerous for Fnatic. Oscarinin is still massive. This is the big kind of ace up the sleeve for Fnatic right now. But if, as you say, you can set up a nice team fight front to back for Heretics, that's where I think Fnatic might struggle.
I mean, Oscarin's got a 5,000 gold lead over Sion. The statistics for this player will be impossible to discuss without like 3 layers of context, because over the course of their 5 games, obviously had a lot of struggles in the first 3, looked better. This weekend, this game even, the split map play from Jankos and Ebi, allowing him some early advantages. But we're just grouping up again. This is a game defined by 5v5s. Neither team, this might be harsh, but neither team really showing an awareness or understanding of how to play those side lanes. We've not seen Oscarinin play the side lane push a huge amount. Look, his TP's on cooldown, so obviously you gotta be aware of that. But we're just grouping up. We're gonna set up for another fight, Dagda.
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised that we're not seeing Fnatic play through sides more, but the fact that they are in control of this game is honestly the bigger talking point here, because we haven't got to see that from Fnatic. The potential for their first win on the cards, potential for that Dragon Soul in just a minute's time as well. And as we look at Heretics, looks like they may even just go, right, screw this. We don't really feel like we can really get in towards that Dragon. So with the Baron just up shortly afterwards, we're going to try and set up vision on this top side. So Fnatic will be forced into that hard decision again. What objective do we go for?
And just very quickly, before we get into this next fight, take a look at the XP differences there. Of the top 5 players, 4 of them are Fnatic. It's level advantage for Oscar, Razork, Rekkles. And we're just setting up. It's 30 seconds for the next Dragon. 30 seconds for the next fight. Remember, straight up, front to back team fights. Heretics have got the front line. It's a little more difficult for Fnatic, but they need to get Jackspektra. They need to get Ruby. Neither of them have their flashes available. Point and click CC has to land. Teleport coming in. The Shrimp wants to charge. Unstoppable Onslaught. I'm waiting for the trigger. Waiting for him to go forward. Holding on to it for now. Weaver's Wall. Cuts off Sion. He gets pulled backwards by the Dredge Knight, by the seismic shot. Throws out the ulti for at least a knock up. The Cataclysm comes forward. Razork is locked in. It's 1-for-1. Support for top laner, but Zombie Sion is doing so much. Oscar is running for his life. Razork engages and Rekkles is trying to find the feathers, but he can't do it just yet. Jackspektra's untouched. Wild Growth has kept him alive, and he is zapping his way through members of Fnatic. Heretics may have just won the fight. Sparks over the wall. Rekkles, feathers fly. Can't blade call them backwards yet, but it's Heretics that win. It's Heretics that stop the soul. It's Heretics that get the dragon.
And that's what we said. At 3 items, Heretics come alive, and immediately they find the team fight after, even sending Ebby to the top lane to get enough gold for that Radiant Virtue so he could then TP into the fight. Heretics played this beautifully. Ebby ends up being the front line, taking a brunt of the damage, but you've now got Azir poking over the wall. You've got that laser coming from Jackspektra as well. And even though you get the Sion down, there's no real follow-up. Again, Jankos playing beautifully on that front line, absorbing a ton of the damage that's coming through Humanoid. Humanoid had put himself into a position over the wall on the left-hand side, so he wasn't actually getting a huge amount of damage down. And then Jackspektra hopping off to make sure that he could carry this fight.
I mean, Dagda, we've been very lucky today with our 3 respective games. Man, look at that damage in the team fight. Gigantic. And with a 3,000 difference, 31 minutes in, I do want to ask everybody at home, if you are on Discord, please let us know if you think Fnatic will win this game. Head over to discord.lec.gg. Everyone in Berlin, if you have a phone, get on Discord and vote right now, because I want to see if people believe in Fnatic. They just lost that team fight. They just lost that dragon. And with a 3.5k difference, this game is by no means really in either team's control.
And we're now back to that goal difference that we had at the 10-minute mark.
Yes.
The fact that Heretics have slowly but surely been clawing their way back in. Ruby, 3.5 items, 4 items onto Jackspektra. Heretics feel confident to start off this objective, but I don't know about that one. Oscarinin on the way up.
Oh, he's got level 16. He's got teleport. Heretics have backed away. Jackspektra and Heretics looking at that. Jax not going to find the target. Bearing in mind, still 2-level advantage. Fnatic and Heretics, neither team has really been able to control the side lanes, has really played around it. It has just been front-to-back fights. 31 kills in 32 minutes, and we're setting up for another fight. Obviously, we're still counting those votes, so ignore that for now. But the Baron has been pushed away. Fnatic have stopped them, and it's Heretics looking for a pick.
This works for Heretics, though. For Fnatic, they were trying to keep Oscarinin pushing in that bot side. Heretics start up the Baron to try and get the TP from Oscarinin, but they don't. Now it's a poke game, and Ruby and Jackspektra trying to get that damage down.
Oh, man. Okay, so Baron is going to be the bait. So Heretics try to dance around this one again. 2-level advantage for Rekkles, as I've mentioned a few times. Okay, screw it. Fnatic, you start this one off. Now you pull Heretics towards you.
Jankos reset. Jankos went back for the Force of Nature. He's not here. They spotted it on the blue ward right as the recall finished. Fnatic get to sneak away the Baron.
They managed to sneak it out despite the fact that he gets their Weaver's Wall used this time flawlessly. The ensuing fight, Cataclysm comes down. Epi's already dead. Fnatic are losing one, losing another as Oscarinin is using that counter-strike to avoid so much damage. Rekkles holds on to his flash. Humanoid's throwing out those threaded volleys. It's a 1-for-1. But the Baron goes to Fnatic. They snuck it under Heretics' nose.
I don't know if it was Humanoid or if it was Rekkles' blue ward, but they placed it down right as Jankos' reset was finishing. And that was the call. They were like, watch it here. So as we get the reset coming through from Jankos, he's on the pink ward, so won't get spotted. But that ward comes in and gives that little bit of vision. So they spotted the Jankos' reset, and then Fnatic immediately turn on towards the Baron because they know there's no jungler, there's no contest. And this late in the game, Heretics won't have a chance to get in before it's burst down.
I mean, so much damage on the Fnatic squad. Dagda, I can let you know, production have told me, unfortunately I can't run the graphic, but just before that Baron was secured, the vote was 70% in favor of Heretics. They did not believe Fnatic would win. Admittedly, Fnatic just lost the team fight and lost the dragon. Now they've got the Baron. I imagine there'll be more confidence on the side of the Fnatic fans. We're a minute from the next dragon. Heretics again do not want to concede the soul. 6 towers to 3. And Fnatic have once again grouped up in this middle lane. Teleports available for all 4 respective members. And with a minute to Dragon, Dagda, you do need to look at this. Tell me about the setup here, because it just feels to me like we're just going to hit straight into another 5v5.
That's exactly it. And the big one would be a case of, can we get these Rabadon death caps finished beforehand? But it doesn't look like that's going to be the case. Jankos steps away from Razork, but Heretics need to get that front to back. They can't have these separated skirmishes.
Okay, so no flash for Ruby, no flash for Oscar, Razork, and Humanoid. Rekkles has his available. Jackspektra's got the Hourglass as well. 30 seconds for the Dragon. It's Humanoid being chunked out. It's Ebby. Stop eating dredge lines, man! He's taken out by Fnatic once more. Cataclysm has been used, and it does naught to help Heretics with 40 seconds before Ebby's alive. Teleport's available to him. Fnatic have got a 5 versus 4. But I think maybe less effective hit points. They're peeling into the river. They've got their sights set on that Ocean Soul.
Humanoid trying to see if he can get the angle for the Weaver's Wall to separate out Heretics. They're moving in as 4. Dragon started. Humanoid sends through the wall, and it's a beautiful setup.
Dredge line connects on the Jankos, and Fnatic pounce. They want to take
Wait a second.
Got the Dragon secured. The Soul has been picked up. It was Rekkles that finalized it. But now 1-2 members of Fnatic are down. Jackspektra gets thrown backwards. Humanoid with the seismic shove of all seismic shoves sets it up 4 kills, and Fnatic now they turn their attention to the inhibitor turrets.
The 1-2 combo of the Vi and the Taliyah with the setup onto the AD carry of Heretics, take them down. And Fnatic, they're barreling down mid. They're going to try and get their first win.
I need to see, I really feel like it was the seismic shove that caught Jackspektra. I want to watch that on the replay. Huge ability that just completely unlocked the win. Rekkles finishes off the Dragon. Fnatic are on an 8-game losing streak. They have not won in 50 days. It is the worst regular season loss streaks that we've ever had from the squad. And this might be their first win here in Spring.
This was a great wall from Humanoid and a great turn here onto immediately Jankos to try and burst him down, but the amount of damage from Ruby sending in the soldiers, Jackspektra with the burst as well, suddenly made this very dangerous. Stopwatch comes in to keep Oscarinin alive that little bit longer and buy some space here, but the biggest problem is as Razork comes back out of the pit, Jackspektra steps up, tries to be the carry, ult into the Q, sets up the flip back, and that's where the damage comes from, and there's nothing Jackspektra can do to get away with it. Had to use his Zonyas before he got hit, but I don't think he's expecting Razork to close the distance that quickly.
Man, so Fnatic are in a position they can close this out. Super's in the middle. Look at that damage. Remember, that was that 5 versus 4. Ebby had been taken out just beforehand. Ebby, Sion, 0, 9, and 5. The split map play at the beginning, and the way that they've tried to set up for these team fights, Ebby has not been in a right position. And look, I want to give credit to you. Fnatic have punished him, right? They've pounced. They've been able to separate him off, use the Weaver's Wall, use those dredge lines.
But here's the thing. Ebby just knows, look, yous are all at 6 items. You don't get stronger. I've got time to flourish. I'm only at 2. That means I have so much time to build up all these stats. And look, I mean, obviously I'm messing about, but for Ebby, it actually is going to be relevant. If he can get 3-4 items in, maybe he can actually become a tank. The fact he's still level 15 and almost everyone in the game, apart from the supports, is level 18, says a lot about where he's at.
It's been so difficult. I just don't know if he's going to get the time. I think Fnatic have set themselves up the fights. And look, singling out Ebby. Yes, he's the front line, but if your front line is burst down in a second and a half, what more can you do? Weaver's Wall will slow down the retreat. 45 seconds for the next Baron. Fnatic can play the top lane. They've got teleports available, as I've mentioned several times this game. And they will decide, looking for opportunities. It's Jankos in the mid lane. It's Ruby in the top lane. And I think the safe option here, peel back, get Baron, and use that to close the game.
I agree. I think still, though, Fnatic not really utilizing their waves correctly. You could have Humanoid on bot side trying to have something work. You got good engages coming through from Jankos and Ebby, which I think is why they're a little bit more worried about it. But Humanoid, good flick back. Takes a little bit of damage in return, though.
Yeah, a lot of damage as well. Just before this next fight breaks out, if you are Fnatic fans, these are the next games. Koi, Astralis, G2, Mad Lions. Fnatic need to close this game out and then look to tomorrow to Koi. Look to next week to pick up those wins to make it back into the group stage. Ebby will already be taken out. The rest of Heretics simply cannot step into the mines. They cannot step into the feathers. They can't get through the damage line that Fnatic have to allow Ruby and Jackspektra to hit their targets.
It's because they don't have a front line. The Ebi just gets blown up immediately every single time, and Jankos barely has a thought to consider before his Sion's already dead. So Jackspektra and Ruby, this great team fight that we're expecting, like we can see the damage when they're given that opportunity, but Fnatic aren't letting them do so. Now with Baron, they immediately turn onto this top side. Still 15 seconds until Ebi is up.
This has to be the final push yet. 10 seconds for Ebi to spawn. Baron and bot minions engage from Razork. The cease and desist. Jankos running for his life. GA is procced and Super Minions now in 2 lanes. Razork starting to step away. Survives for now. Jackspektra's flash will come up in just a moment. The Sand Soldiers are sent forward. Jankos goes 2. There's no Cataclysm available to him. Look for that seismic shove. Ultra Shock goes out. That will catch Jankos. Oscarinin leap strikes backwards. Rekkles can still throw the feathers out and lock people down, but it may not be needed. Empress Divine goes out, but Rekkles is unstoppable. With Jackspektra down, with Ebi following suit. Ruby's the last man standing, and Oscarinin puts him in the fountain. Fnatic, after 50 days, after 8 losses in a row, will finally stand up, will finally take a Nexus, and will win their first game of spring.
First game that they get an ace. First game that they can pick up a Baron, and first game that they can pick up the win. A first step for Fnatic on a long, long road for them to get back to groups, but that is a start and a half that they needed.
They needed it and came at a desperate time. The halfway mark here in the regular season, now 1-4. And while Fnatic fans will be rejoicing with that win, I do think you have to zoom out. And to be a bit of a Debbie Downer here, neither team demonstrated macro really. Neither team really could do anything outside of the head-to-head 5v5s. I mean, we're at 45 kills in 41 minutes. I think we had 3 Barons, we had 7 Dragons or 6 Dragons. Yeah. It was just a brawl.
Yeah, and from the get-go, right? Even when Oscarinin got those 3 kills at the start, you have 2 assists to Humanoid. I'm like, cool, this is where you play for sides, you can play it really clever, actually start to work it out, but instead they just kind of, I don't know if it's a bit of bravado on Fnatic's point from the start, thinking, hey, we can just bulldoze our way through. But as it started to go later and later, it felt like it was more a conscious choice that nearly came back to bite them at times.
It really did. Player of the game nominees at LEC on Twitter, Oscarinin, Razork, and Humanoid. I think from both Exile and Fnatic who picked up wins today. Their early game, their decisiveness, like they actually played the game early, which I was really happy to see.
Yeah, I agree. And the fact that we actually finally get to see something from them is fantastic.
We'll be back tomorrow. Thank you so much, Dagda. For now, we're going to hit on stage where Advienne is standing by with Frankie.
Thank you very much, guys. Great work today and great work from this gentleman joining me now. Advienne, first of all, welcome back to the LEC. What's it like getting your first win with Fnatic?
Thank you. Yeah, it's great. I would have liked to see it a bit earlier, but I'm happy it's finally there, yeah.
What was your thoughts when you did take the Nexus? Because the look on your face in particular was perfection.
I mean, I'm just happy we killed the Nexus, you know, because the past games we didn't. And so, I mean, the game started very good and then it kind of came down to a halt. So at some point I was, you know, I was a bit scared. I really wanted to kill that Nexus, so it's happy to see it in the end, you know.
Advienne, you strike me as quite a positive guy. How has it been trying to keep that mindset after the performance in week 1?
Yeah, you have to like kind of make up in your head why it went wrong, and we have kind of good reasons, I'd say, as to why it didn't go as well as we wanted. And so once you've established that, and once you establish the things you can fix, all you can do is kind of look forward.
What did you establish?
Well, we established that we were very sick coming up to that week, and we still aren't feeling the best, but we're slowly getting better, so that definitely didn't help. And also the fact that we, you know, had maybe some stage jitters. We need to maybe click as a team also when the pressure is high. But I'm happy that today we were able to show that, you know, we can win and we can click, and yeah, it can only go up from here.
It was a really great early game performance, particularly from Oscarinin as well. Tell me how you've been supporting him as a team, because he's obviously the most inexperienced player on the team. There's so much pressure coming into an org like Fnatic. So what have you been working with him on?
Well, I'm just trying to make Oscar feel as comfortable as I can make him feel. Obviously, we came together from the academy team, so I know him probably the best. And yeah, I tried to talk with him, have a laugh with him, realize to him that, you know, it's pressure, but it's also really cool and fun to play the LEC and something he should cherish. So yeah, I'm just trying to help him with, I don't know, spreading my positive mindset.
Yeah, and it's obviously an asset to Fnatic. And actually, we're seeing here how Oscarinin can be an asset to Fnatic, particularly on the Jax. Given that you know him from the academy team, what does Oscar look like at his best?
I mean, Oscar at his best, he's stomping his lane, he's taking over. Mechanically, he's an incredible talent. And I don't know, at his peak, Oscar will take over games on his own and win them when he gets the chance.
Well, you need to get at least 2 more wins to be in contention for the top 8. So how do you feel like Fnatic are going to progress from this victory?
I mean, I think definitely we get some momentum now, which will help us coming into the next games. And yeah, we'll just have to take it from there. See what we did well, fix what we didn't do well, and yeah, that's it.
Well, it was great to see such a fantastic early game start from you guys today, and fantastic to see you guys get your first W of the split. Thank you very much, Advienne. We will see you tomorrow.
Thank you.
And get well soon. Coming up next, we're going to have SK facing off against Koi. But first, let's listen to the song of the week from Warner. It's Body Talk by Offenbach, so don't go anywhere.
Level 4 for Yubi. Sends the Sand Soldiers forward. Slide, the glide. There's no divide. He's only level 4. Fnatic get a second before it's traded backwards. Fnatic then have got 3 kills. The shot backwards. Ebby's got no flash, and he's taken down 4 kills to Fnatic. Oh, wants to turn around. Slap him with the anchor at the end, and Razork picks up another. That's not finalized it, but now 2 members of Fnatic are down. Jackspektra gets knocked backwards. Humanoid with the seismic shove of all seismic shoves.
Game was insane.
Even the biggest champ needs a break.
Let me in! Hey! Let me in! Let me in! Let me in!